As of January 14, the number of COVID-19 infected people in Japan exceeded 20,000 for the first time in about 4 months, reaching 22,045. It is presumed that most of the infected people are infected with the Omicron variant, but no specific data has been specified. Tokyo and Osaka have large populations, so it is not surprising that the number of infected people is high, but Okinawa, Hiroshima, and Yamaguchi prefectures have far higher levels of infection than the metropolitan areas. In those prefectures, U.S. military bases have been found to be the source of infection, raising criticism of U.S. infection control measures and the Japanese government's delay in taking action. At the 2+2 Japan-U.S. online conference held the day before yesterday, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken apparently promised to ensure that U.S. forces in Japan take thorough measures to combat the infection, but it is already too late. The Japanese government immediately implemented waterfront measures after the discovery of the Omicron variant in South Africa, and succeeded in slowing the flow of the disease into the country, but the spread of the disease from the U.S. military in Japan seems to have been unexpected. This waterfront measure is scheduled to continue until the end of this February, but it is already considered meaningless. While the virulence of the Omicron variant is decreasing, as is being recognized internationally, the infectivity seems to be increasing severalfold. It is clear that the number of infected people is increasing, and everyone is worried about how much more it will increase in the future, but it is unclear whether or not it will actually lead to a situation where the medical system will be strained. In reality, the hospital bed utilization rate in Tokyo on July 22 last year was 42.6%, 1,984 newly infected patients, while the same rate on January 14 was 15.1%, 4,051 newly infected patients. Similarly, the number of severely infected patients was 16.6% last year and 0.098% this year, clearly different from the situation in the spread phase of the Delta variant. It is premature to neglect infection control measures in anticipation of the low virulence of the Omicron variant, but the media is making as much or more of a fuss about it than it did about the spread of the Delta variant. Of course, the government needs to provide urgent assistance to Okinawa, Hiroshima and Yamaguchi prefectures where the number of infected people has unexpectedly increased. In Okinawa Prefecture, medical personnel have become close contacts, and the prefecture is short-staffed. At present, the self-defense forces are dispatching medical officers, but this alone will probably not be enough to turn the situation around. We need to be wise enough to give priority to the distribution of vaccines and oral medicines that are in stock in Japan. The pace at which the number of newly infected people is increasing is astounding. In the US, 1.4 million people are infected per day, which translates to 450,000 people in Japan. It is also reported that about 140,000 people have been hospitalized in the US, putting pressure on the medical system. No matter how weak the Omicron variant is, if the number of infected people increases rapidly, the medical system will inevitably be strained. In Japan, the number of infected people is increasing so rapidly that even booster shots are not enough. I wonder if there is a solution. In any case, it seems that ordinary people like me have no choice but to take thorough self-protection measures. In the situation where Omicron variants are sweeping the world, some people are arguing that it would be better if all the people in the world were infected, considering the toxicity of Omicron variants. This reminded me of a similar policy in Sweden at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Recently, I have not heard any information about the country, so I looked into it. According to our Vol.Ⅻ data, the cumulative number of deaths in Sweden as of January 11 was 15,462. Since the population is about 10 million 2018, the death rate is about 0.15%. On the same day, the cumulative number of deaths in Japan was 18,408, and the population is about 120 million, so the death rate is about 0.015%. This means that Sweden's death rate is 10 times higher than Japan's. I do not mean to criticize the policies of other countries, but since the mortality rate is 10 times higher than that of Japan as a result of accepting COVID-19 in order to obtain antibodies for all the people, it can be said that Sweden's policy was a failure. In Japan too, the idea of infecting everyone is out of the question.